Hello, my friends. Welcome to another English learning story. Today, I want to tell you something truly powerful. It's a story of dreams, of pain, of never giving up. This is not just a story about a famous actor. This is the real journey of Jim Carrey, a boy who once lived in a van but believed he was born to make the world laugh. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this story. Listen closely. Read along. Let's improve your English and your motivation together. Jim Carrey was born on January 17, 1962, in Canada. His family was poor, but they were full of love. Jim was the youngest of 4 children, and from a very young age, he loved to make people laugh. At school, Jim was not the best student. He often made jokes in class, and sometimes the teachers were not happy. But Jim didn't care. He loved making people smile. That was his gift. His father, Percy Carrey, was a musician and a man with a good sense of humor. Jim looked up to him. Percy had big dreams too, but he gave them up to support the family. He worked hard as an accountant, but one day, he lost his job. This moment changed everything. After Percy lost his job, the Carrey family had no money to pay rent. They lost their house. Life became very hard. For a while, they lived in a van. Yes, a real van. They parked the van at a campsite, and that became their home. Imagine being a teenager, brushing your teeth in a public bathroom, sleeping in a cold van every night, and still going to school. That was Jim's life. But Jim didn't complain. Instead, he used humor to survive. He believed that one day, he would be on stage. One day, people would know his name. And one day, he would help his family live better. But it wasn't easy. He dropped out of school at 16 to work and support his family. He worked as a janitor, cleaning floors in a factory. Every night after work, he would write jokes and practice in front of the mirror. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to be a comedian. And he wasn't going to give up. Jim cleaned floors all day. At night, he dreamed. He stood in front of a mirror and practiced faces, voices, and jokes. He imagined a crowd laughing, clapping. He imagined lights on his face. But there were no lights. Just the small mirror in his van. At 15, he performed on stage for the first time. It was a small comedy club in Toronto. He was excited. Nervous. Full of hope. He stepped onto the stage, and froze. His hands were shaking. His jokes didn't land. People didn't laugh. Some even booed. Jim left the stage with tears in his eyes. He felt like a failure. But he didn't quit. He went back again. And again. Every time, he got a little better. He learned what people liked. He changed his style. He practiced more. He was still poor. Still living in a van. Still working as a janitor. But inside, something powerful was growing: belief. Belief in himself. Then something strange happened. One night, Jim drove to a hill in Los Angeles. He looked out at the city of stars. Big homes. Fancy cars. Giant billboards. He didn't have any of those things. But he had an idea. He took out a check from his pocket. It was fake. He wrote it to himself. $10 million for acting services, dated 1995. He put it in his wallet. He carried it every day. Jim didn't know how, but he believed it would come true. Now he just had to survive long enough to make it happen. Years passed. Jim kept performing. Small clubs. Small crowds. Small pay. He made just enough money to buy food and pay for gas. Sometimes, not even that. One day, a comedy agent saw him perform. The agent said, "You're good. But you're too crazy. You need to calm down." Jim smiled and said, "Crazy is what I do best." Still, he got no offers. He moved to Los Angeles and rented a small apartment. He slept on a mattress on the floor. No furniture. No money. Just hope. Some nights, he cried. Some days, he doubted himself. But he never stopped working. He performed at the Comedy Store, a famous club where big stars started their careers. There, he met other comedians. He watched them, learned from them. And every time he went on stage, he gave everything. One night, something changed. He did an impression of Clint Eastwood, the famous actor. The crowd went wild. People laughed. They clapped. They stood up. A director in the crowd saw him. He said, "Hey kid, you've got something." That was Jim's first break, a small role on TV. It wasn't much. But it was a start. Soon, he got more offers. Small parts in movies. Guest roles on shows. People started to remember his name. But Jim didn't want to be small. He wanted to be great. He remembered the check in his wallet. $10 million. He still carried it every day. And now, that dream was getting closer. In the early 1990s, Jim Carrey was finally getting noticed. But most people still didn't know his name. They called him the guy with the funny face. His face could move in ways no one had seen before: wide eyes, twisted lips, giant smiles. They started calling him the rubber-faced man. Then, in 1994, everything changed. Jim got a lead role in a strange, low-budget movie called Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. At first, no one believed in it. The producers were nervous. They thought the movie was too weird. Jim was too wild. But Jim didn't care. He went all in. He created a crazy voice. He made funny faces. He ran like a cartoon character. When the movie came out, something magical happened. Audiences loved it. Kids laughed. Teenagers quoted his lines. Adults couldn't stop talking about him. Jim Carrey became a star overnight. The same year, 2 more movies came out, The Mask and Dumb and Dumber. All 3 were massive hits. Jim wasn't just funny. He was unforgettable. He went from sleeping in a van to earning $20 million per movie. That fake check he wrote to himself. The one for $10 million. He was now earning double that. He called his father. "Dad, we made it," he said. His dad cried. A few years later, when his father passed away, Jim placed that same check, now old and torn, inside his father's coffin. It was their dream. And now it was real. Jim Carrey was now one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. His face was on every poster. His movies made millions. He was living in a mansion, driving fast cars, meeting famous people. From the outside, he had everything. But inside, something was missing. He started to feel empty. People laughed at his jokes, but no one asked how he felt. He smiled for the cameras, but behind the smile, there was sadness. Jim had always used comedy to escape pain. But now, he couldn't escape it anymore. He said in an interview, "I used to think I just needed to be famous. I thought success would fix me. But it didn't." He started asking deep questions. Who am I without the jokes? What if people stop laughing? What is happiness, really? Jim began reading books about life, purpose, and the mind. He learned about meditation. He studied philosophy. He started painting and writing. He also began talking openly about something many people hide: depression. He said, "Sometimes I wake up and feel nothing. Just a black hole inside." People were surprised. How could the funniest man in the world feel this way? But Jim wanted to be honest. He said, "Fame is not the answer. Money is not the answer. The answer is inside you." He took a break from Hollywood. Fewer movies. Fewer interviews. More time alone. More time healing. But Jim was not finished. He just needed to find a new reason to create. Not for money. Not for attention. But for love, truth, and freedom. After years of wild comedy, Jim Carrey returned to Hollywood, but he was different now. He wasn't looking for laughs. He wanted something deeper. He took a role in The Truman Show, a powerful movie about a man whose life is secretly controlled by others. It wasn't just funny. It was emotional, thoughtful, real. Critics were shocked. Jim Carrey, the crazy guy, could act. Really act. He showed pain, hope, fear, and love. And people felt it. The movie was a huge success. Later, he starred in Man on the Moon, a film about another strange, genius comedian, Andy Kaufman. Jim studied Andy so deeply that he almost lost himself. He stayed in character for months, even off camera. Some people said he went too far. But Jim didn't care. He said, to play a great artist, you have to become one. Jim wasn't just chasing fame anymore. He was chasing meaning. And people noticed. He won awards. He gave speeches that made people cry. Not with laughter, but with truth. He started sharing ideas that shocked people. I think everyone should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of, so they can see it's not the answer. People laughed, then paused. Was he serious? Yes, he was. Jim now used his voice to talk about life, pain, ego, freedom, and love. He gave talks at universities, helped charities, and even painted pictures that told deep stories. He still made people smile, but in a new way. Not with jokes. With wisdom. Jim Carrey was no longer just an actor. He was now a seeker, someone searching for the truth behind life, fame, and the self. He started saying things that confused some people but deeply inspired others. I have no mask anymore, he said. There is no Jim Carrey. There is just the experience happening. He talked about the ego, the part of us that wants attention, success, control. He said his whole life was about building the Jim Carrey character, and now he was ready to let that go. He said, Jim Carrey was just a role. I played it so well, even I believed it. He stopped chasing roles in movies. He stopped needing applause. Instead, he focused on the present moment. He painted for hours in his home. Bright colors. Big canvases. He painted joy, pain, and everything in between. He gave spiritual talks and told people, you don't need to be somebody. You already are everything. Some people laughed. Others listened closely. He didn't care. He was finally free from needing to be funny, rich, or famous. He began teaching young people to follow their hearts, not the world's idea of success. He said, if you choose love over fear, your path will become clear. He smiled more. But it was a softer smile now. A real one. He still made jokes. Still laughed. But it wasn't to hide pain anymore. It was to celebrate life. The real one. Jim Carrey rarely appears in public now. He doesn't go to Hollywood parties. He doesn't chase big movie roles. He doesn't care about fame. He lives in a quiet home by the ocean. He paints. He writes. He walks in nature. But he still inspires millions. On social media, he shares short videos, sometimes funny, sometimes deep. One day, he posted, your job is not to figure out how your dream will come true. Your job is to open the door in your heart and walk through it. People around the world shared his words. They printed them on posters. Used them as wallpapers. Taught them to their children. Jim became something more than a movie star. He became a teacher of truth. In interviews, he looks different now. His beard is long. His voice is calm. His eyes are full of peace. He doesn't act much, but when he does, it's for a reason. In Sonic the Hedgehog, he played a fun, silly villain, and people loved it. But he said it might be his last film. I've done enough. I'm enough, he said. Not many stars say that. But Jim was never like other stars. He found what he was truly looking for, not on stage, not in money, not in applause. He found it inside. And now, he helps others find it too. He often says, you are not the story. You are the light behind the story. These are not just words. They are the wisdom of someone who went to the top, and kept going, deeper, higher, further. He didn't just succeed in Hollywood. He succeeded in life. Jim Carrey's story is more than just a success story. It's a mirror. A mirror for anyone who ever felt broken. For anyone who ever failed. For anyone who ever wanted to give up, but didn't. He lost his home. He lost his job. He lost people he loved. He lost himself, and then found something greater. Many people know Jim Carrey as the funny guy from The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, or Bruce Almighty. But behind the characters was a real man with real struggles. And through it all, he kept going. He didn't wait for the perfect moment. He didn't wait to feel ready. He acted. He tried. He failed. He tried again. And with every step, he got closer to his dream, not just of being famous, but of being free. Here's what we can learn from him. Use your pain. Turn it into power. Be yourself. Even if people laugh. Even if they don't understand. Create your own path. The world may say no, but your heart can say yes. Don't wait. Start where you are. Use what you have. Stay curious. Life is more than money or fame. It's about discovery. Jim once said, "You can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on what you do want." Those words have changed lives. Not because they're clever, but because they're true. Today, Jim Carrey is more than a movie star. He is a symbol, a reminder that dreams can survive pain. That laughter can come from sadness. That even in your darkest moments, you can find light. He once slept in a van. Now he teaches the world how to find inner peace. He once cried after a failed performance. Now he helps others rise after failure. He once thought success meant being loved by millions. Now he knows that real success is loving yourself, even when no one's watching. His life is proof that you can lose everything and still win. You can feel broken and still be brilliant. You can make mistakes and still matter. Jim Carrey is not just a story of success. He's a story of transformation. From poor kid to janitor to comedian to millionaire to teacher to truth seeker. He once wrote a fake check to himself, hoping one day it would be real. But the real gift wasn't the money. The real gift was becoming the person who believed it was possible. Thank you for listening to this story, my friend. If you're learning English, I hope this helped you understand more, feel more, and grow more. If you're chasing a dream, I hope this gave you strength. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. Speak English every day. Learn with passion. Believe in yourself. And like Jim Carrey, write your dream on paper, and carry it in your heart. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to follow for more English learning journeys, success stories, and powerful motivation. Your dream is real. Your time is now. Let's keep learning. Let's keep growing. Together.